The stories in this video are not stories at all, but articles. Articles about paranormal events that were published in real newspapers 100 years ago.
One of the most difficult parts of communicating with the supernatural or paranormal entities is interpretation. Because direct communication is so rare, we're forced to infer a lot when the messages being sent are incongruent. Tonight's article takes us into a very special set of woods, where there are plenty of sights, sounds, some scary, some warning, and some playing.
Something is haunting the woods of Carnesville, Georgia. There have been so many reports that it's difficult to tell exactly what's going on. On the one hand, there have been frightening noises and apparitions seen, not only in the woods, but near where a murderer, Frank Sanders, was lynched. Locals say you can hear owls all night where the lynching happened, including one specific owl with a distinctive voice that appears to never grow tired of hooting or ever leave. This owl, while eerie, is not thought of as a bad omen though, but as a warning of the dangers that lie in the woods. However, others have reported seeing a group of children happily dancing around a fire about 200 yards into the woods. At that distance, the children's features are indiscernible, but their silhouettes can be seen as they circle the flame. On more than one occasion, an adult has attempted to reach the children, who really shouldn't be out so late. As they made their way to the bonfire and the bonfire and children appeared to supernaturally move deeper into the woods. Again, they did not look hurt or frightened. They appeared to be making merry. After pursuing the children and the lights for a time, the locals that made the attempt gave up and returned home. The Hilly family rented a home near the woods where the execution took place. They left shortly after because they witnessed things they believed to be supernatural. The house is now occupied by a Mr. Crawford, who also states he's heard things in the woods that he could not explain. The hauntings are becoming so regular now that people who need to cross the woods are now making a point to do so before nightfall.
Whoa! I can't lie, I'd avoid those woods at night too! So what do you guys think? Those kids dancing around the fire didn't make people afraid. Just curious. Were they friendly, neutral, or some kind of trap? Let me know in the comments what you think. Eventually, the town came together and hired a well-known medium to go over to the woods and speak with whatever was haunting them. She didn't run into children dancing around the fire, or the owl, but did reach the murderer Frank Sanders. She asked Frank about the hauntings in the woods, and he had this to say: "I don't know, but in these woods, anything ghost." Until next time, Super Horror family, I'll keep you ghosted. Posted! The Lifetime channel is like a horror channel. Only for married women, though. You have cheating husbands, crazy mistresses, and sometimes the husband's a murderer. Well, apparently, these aren't new things.
Everyone in the town of Wheeling is talking about the local haunted house, but there's nothing new about it. The house has been considered haunted by most in the area. and because of that, has been uninhabited for the last 20 years. According to the locals, one night, more than 20 years ago, a husband and wife got into a heated argument. No one recalls how the argument was started, but almost everyone remembers how it ended, with the husband killing his wife. After the deed was done, the man acquired a coffin, put his wife in it, and hid her in the attic. Afterwards, the man disappeared. Some say he was trying to evade the law. Some say the fact that he put his wife in a coffin shows remorse, and his conscience weighed too heavy on him for him to stay. And others say he was the first victim of the hauntings. After the man disappeared, and the man's wife's body was found, the local noticed the silhouette of a coffin that had appeared on the roof of the house. Now back to the present. The house, you'll remember, has been unoccupied for 20 years. Well, it has just been bought, and the first thing the new owner did was to reshingle the old roof. To everyone's amazement, after the reshingling, the coffin silhouette has reappeared. Maybe it will never leave.
Her being put in a coffin could be evidence of remorse. There's no way to say, sorry I killed you, but being placed in a coffin is way better than being discarded deep in the woods. If this was him showing remorse, why is the silhouette of the coffin on the roof? Is she trying to get the authorities' attention so she can get some justice? Is she just trapped at the house? Or is something else going on? Let me know what you think in the comments. You know, when I see things like this happen, it makes me think about how horses have their mates picked for them, and you never see them kill each other or get divorced. It's probably because they're in stable relationships. I've watched my fair share of horror movies. Sometimes while watching something especially bizarre, my mind will say, the director did this to make it more creepy, completely forgetting that there are people that have seen the exact same thing in real life. In tonight's ghost story, I've picked an article with the earliest account I could find of a ghost with a very scary, very particular style of movement.
Every place gets its fair share of crazy people. No matter where you are, there'll be someone there to tell you about all the strange sights and sounds they've experienced. The neighborhood of Hyde Park in Chicago is no exception. Only this time, the reports are not coming from local drunks, but from law enforcement. It started a long time ago, with people living on State Street between 45th and 49th Street claiming they would see an apparition walking through the neighborhood at midnight on all fours. At first, these accounts were considered to be the product of alcohol. We've all seen a man walk home on all fours when he's had too much to drink, and it being so late, and people observing from their windows, it's easy to see how a mistake could be made. But soon after, reports began coming in from streetcar drivers, 2 of which have refused to work their shifts after seeing the ghost. After these reports reached Captain Hunt, he increased midnight patrols in the area, instructing his officers to apprehend the person responsible for the hauntings. When the ghost appeared, he was immediately pursued by a Hyde Park policeman. The officer ran after it and even fired his revolver several times. When the ghost reached the Grand Boulevard, it suddenly vanished. Several officers have now been detailed to hide and wait for the ghost to appear, with the hope of being able to ambush it.
You know, whether you love or hate cops, and I know I've been on both sides of that fence, their accounts are more believable. Cops are seen as a unit, so if one of them sees something crazy, the others will try to keep them from saying anything, because it might make them all look bad. And having several cops and a captain involved, well, let's just say I'm glad I don't live in Hyde Park. If you've lived in Hyde Park, let me know in the comments if people still report seeing this ghost. A few weeks later, a street artist was found dead one morning. Many suspected it was the ghost. Lucky for the cops, it looks like he quickly drew what happened before he died. The cops admitted it could have been the ghost, but they say the details are a little sketchy. We've all seen that guy before. You'll be watching a show or a scary movie, and they insist if they were there, things would be different. They wouldn't be afraid. They would beat the ghost and be the hero. You know what I'm talking about. Well, in tonight's article, we see that guy existed all the way back in 1868.
There is a haunted house in Greensburg, Indiana, situated by the railroad track. Every night at midnight, the house is visited by a ghost that makes itself known by throwing chairs, tables, utensils, anything it can get its hands on. An Irish family tried to live there, but couldn't take it and moved out. The owner attempted to rent the house out again. This second family only stayed for one night before leaving. The owner of the property, being desperate, offered $25 to anyone that could get the ghost to stop making a menace of itself. A young man of little means accepted the job and made his way to the house, prepared to stay the night. Just as the clock in the house struck midnight, slight noises began being heard, soon followed by groans. Then, the sound of doors being opened and shut in the upstairs hall were heard. These events were strange. This was the first time the ghost acted this way. Maybe the ghost knew the young man was there, trying to get rid of it. The young man, too scared to go upstairs to investigate, waited in the room. Suddenly, the door opened to the room he was in, and a lady, dressed in black and very pale, entered the room without ever once breaking eye contact with the young man. He got up and started approaching the apparition. It responded by gliding backwards through the wall into the hall that it had come through. The young man ran for the door to pursue her, but when he made it into the hall, she'd already vanished. According to the owner, the house was the scene of a grisly murder, where a man killed his wife by cutting her heart out. He fled the country and did not return until the war. Records show he died in the Battle of Vicksburg. Without hope for a trial or justice, the woman may be destined to haunt the house forever. I've heard people talk about how there's a decrease in ghost sightings,
and they believe it's due to an increase in scientific discovery. Like people today are too smart for ghosts. There's an interesting correlation, but I think the conclusion is way off. First of all, people today are not too smart for anything. I've seen them eat Tide Pods and superglue their hair to their heads. So there's plenty of people not splitting atoms anytime soon. But I will admit, there does appear to be a decrease. I think it's far more likely that people are getting justice more often when they die, thanks to advances in forensic science. What do you guys think? Did an advancement cause this? Is social stigma putting pressure on people, leading to people underreporting? Or maybe it's something else. Let me know in the comments what you think. And while you're down there, take a moment and thank a Patreon. Making horror on YouTube isn't easy. The rules aren't enforced evenly. At any moment, I could have any number of videos demonetized. Patreons help insulate me from YouTube's unilateral enforcement, allowing me to continue creating the most fun horror around. I became curious and did a little digging, and found out that the murdering husband died in the war trying to blow up a horse. According to his commanding officer, I don't know why he wanted to blow up a horse, but that moron didn't get very far. He managed to sneak up behind the horse, pursed his lips together, and picked up the horse's tail. But before he could blow any air into the horse's butt, he was kicked in the head, being killed immediately.